All right, welcome back to Two Song Podcast. This is Chris.
And this is Cam.
And this is a show where we try and sort every song ever into one of two categories, either a love song
Or a fight song.
That's right. And this is episode 105 of our show.
It sure is. And the intro that you just heard is for Crown by Kendrick Lamar. It's from his brand new album, which came out just a little over a week ago, maybe a couple weeks now. By the time the episode comes out on May 13th. The album is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Nice, that's a cool title.
Yeah. Yeah, and the album artwork is interesting as well. Pretty cool. It looks like him and his family. Mm-hmm. And he's got a crown of thorns he's wearing, and I think he's strapped.
Yep.
Guns tucked into his pants in the back.
Yep.
It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's just very cool looking. Like in like almost like a wood panel room, but I think it's just brown walls, and they're all wearing like white and khaki.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of like Norman Rockwell a little bit, like trying to maybe parody that, or just like some of those artists that were like, when other artists were focusing on the background, all the textures and the shading, they would be like, no, I just want a couple things in the frame and then minimal colors. I don't know what style that is necessarily, but I can like picture it. I can picture other artists that have done it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and there's also just like paint missing from the wall.
Yeah.
Had to have been a purposeful choice. I don't know, it looks really cool.
It does. What about that intro though? I really like how it's like kind of a bouncy, like bluesy, almost ragtime, because it's really slow.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds kind of like a saloon piano. Like it sounds like a slightly out of tune, kind of beaten piano.
Yeah, which I appreciate because I can't afford nor can I find anyone to tune my piano.
Oh man, that's sad.
But yeah, I like they said saloon piano because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot too, and it kind of goes throughout the song,
mm-hmm.
And the piano gets a little bit more interesting and all. But yeah, it's a very simple intro, just like a couple notes.
Yeah, there's some moments where it changes, but for the most part, it's just that like two-step in music form, like a two-step dance, but on a keyboard.
Yeah. Very cool.
Should we, it's interesting, it kind of like hypnotizes you, but it's not very complicated or really worth dwelling on. You reckon we should get into the first verse?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice. I like that verse. It's like, it almost fits perfectly with the music, like with the piano intro.
Yeah.
Because whoever plays that part could play it quickly, but they're choosing like to do it slowly. And I was thinking his rapping when he comes in is kind of like almost bored and slow on purpose, almost like he's like lethargic or doesn't have a lot of energy, or maybe just like something else even is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lazy is a good word for his voice in the song.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he's moving a little bit more towards vocalizing and singing on this album.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And this isn't the strongest example of that. It's kind of monotone, but also like impressive to me, kind of in the context of the rest of the album where he does get a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, it's certainly monotone. And I wonder if some, in the order of the album, and then kind of like we were talking about, the ways he can vocalize a little and experiment with his voice, if he really wanted to draw people into this specific song. Because the title of it is matched in the imagery on the album cover that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And whenever you suggested this one, I was like, oh, I don't know that I know this one yet. So Kendrick Lamar went to the new album, and I couldn't help but notice the artwork. So
cool.
Maybe it was all intentional. I'm sure it was all intentional to to like have the listener really focus on this one, especially after some of the ones that come before it now.
Yeah, there's some heavy hitters and some really intense ones, and in contrast, energetic ones.
Yeah.
And this one's right about in the middle of the album. I kind of want to check that. Yeah, a little bit closer to the bottom, but yeah, I think it's kind of, maybe it peaks right before this, and this is kind of bringing it down a bit.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And this is a show where we put every song into one of two categories, and he says one of our categories twice in this first verse. So
yep,
it's hard to ignore that.
It definitely is, and that's not the only time it comes up. So yeah, that's always nice to see. Like, remember we did a Switchfoot song, and he said my love songs are fight songs. And I was just like, whoa, oh my gosh, we kind of gotta do this one.
Yeah,
I just think that's cool. But I mean, this is not, I don't think our thesis, or we're gonna call it, that big of a stretch, because people are very aware patently on the face of a lot of songs that they're love songs, because they use that word so often.
Yeah. There's a lot of just undeniably love songs, and some we've done, and some there's not much point in doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I almost get a bit of like sarcasm or irony from some of the lines in the way that he's describing love in this first verse.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the second line, favor come with favors and you can't say no. Being like, a lot of business relationships, but probably I imagine especially entertainment industry, it's like, what can you do for me?
Yeah.
The idea that people are just going to malls and looking for talented people and be like, hey, do you want to be a star? Like, that happened to like 3 people in the 80s. That's not a thing. Like, now it's like, well, who do you know that's already rich and famous, or what other connections have you got, or are you willing to make, or what, so I can kind of see like the sarcasm in it, and mention in like kind of gritty and uncomfortable truths like favor come with favors and you can't say no. Because each little like half of the verse ends with that's what I call love.
Yeah, and then kind of the like counter to the line that you mentioned is go out the way to say you made the compromise, which is like, trying to make the thing that you did as like evident as possible, and like be like, but I sacrificed this for you, Edgar. I did this because I love you.
I did this nice thing for you so I could throw it in your face. Aren't you grateful? Yeah.
So I get a sense of like reluctant love, and like you mentioned the business world, but I kind of get like some like family relationships too from the first verse, and that's probably coming from some of the later parts of the song too.
Nice. Well, cool. I'm interested to hear more. So maybe hit this pre-chorus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting pre-chorus.
Yeah.
And part of why I picked this song is because of how interesting it sounds to me. Like, there's nothing much going on with it, but in this pre-chorus you get some voice layering that just sounds otherworldly to me.
Yeah, it sounds like something out of like a horror movie or a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, or I don't know. Part of me feels like I've heard it before. Oh, you know what though? I think I just remembered it. To me, this is not really a compliment, but I don't mean it to be that mean, but to me it kind of sounds like some of the times Voldemort talks or screams in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Or
it's like shrill parts of it.
And then it'll be like 2 notes, and they're not exactly harmony, and they're not exactly octave.
Yeah.
Or like anytime like possession is portrayed in a movie, which like freaks me out. It gives me chills every time. There'll be like 2 voices at the same time.
Oh yeah.
and it's so bad, and they don't sound good together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't ever want to hear that ever.
Uh-huh.
Because he comes in kind of high, like you were talking about vocalizing and maybe doing a different style, like just like maybe change up his flow and or change up all the other like parts of the palette he uses
Mm-hmm.
with his voice, and it's almost like he kept the exact same energy and style from the verse for the pre-chorus and then like put a high thing on top of it.
Yeah, like overdubbed some kind of wild vocalizing just to maybe make it less monotonous, less droning. But then I think the lyrics of this pre-chorus also kind of like match that like harrowing tone.
Yeah.
That he's achieving with that weird overdub. Because it's some pretty sad and scary lyrics to come right after. That's what I call love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really. Yeah. And I reckon it's kind of like a creepy or a bad sound on purpose, which I like because, I mean, I feel like, because we talked about this so many times, I don't want to like keep laboring on this point, but like music just feels a lot of times like it's made in a lab.
Yeah.
And it's like they test it on focus groups to be like, well, it can be more pleasing, it can be more likable, and not everything has to be likable. I mean, if we were talking about the cover art and how it reminds us of a certain style of visual art, like some visual art is hideous. I mean, it's horrible to behold, and that's the point.
Yeah.
Or it just looks gross, or like mixed media. A lot of times people are like, what am I looking at here? And it's to bring about emotions to make you feel something. So when he makes a choice to be like, let's have it sound whack, let's have it sound off. Like there are other parts in the album where he sounds great.
Yeah.
So we know he can. And someone at this level with the people he works with, they're not gonna let the final edit be something bad unless it was on purpose, unless it was a choice.
Yes, definitely. And you mentioned the notes that the two different parts he's doing are like not sounding good together. And that also kind of lines up with the piano kind of being out of tune, and it's just these two notes bouncing back and forth. So it's like he was going for a minimalist approach to try to like convey some of the feelings that the song is about.
Yeah.
So there's very few parts, and there is I think it probably came up in the first verse, the second piano part that's higher up.
Yeah.
But it's pretty simple as well.
It is, yeah.
I think it's just those, it probably could be done by one good pianist, and then Kendrick's voice.
I would think so. I mean, it sounds like it to me. But yeah, I'm glad you said that way. That it's trying to like be minimalist. Otherwise, it would seem like it wouldn't really fit his image to go full on sappy tune or full on like emo or whatever. Just any of that kind of stuff. It's like if he's gonna do a song this way, it's got to be uniquely him.
Yeah, like it wouldn't really work for him to have like a beautiful, perfectly tuned piano ballad.
Yeah,
song.
I agree. Yeah.
Cool. Are you excited for the chorus? You want to get to that?
Yeah, actually, I'm excited.
Nice. Let's do it.
Man.
Yeah.
I like the way I'm biased, but I like the way he springs for can't as opposed to can't.
Yeah. It wouldn't have sounded as good if you said can't.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the word can't is so similar to the word ain't.
Yeah.
So I like them to sound the same. I like them. I don't know if something about it to me is more defiant or more like negative, or I've given up, or I will not, or all of those things. And I don't know, like he also kind of does that too. Like sometimes it's hard to pinpoint where his accent's from.
Yeah.
And but again, this is the third section we've gotten to, and it's totally different than the two sections before.
Yeah.
Like even like sings it different.
Yeah, just kind of the dynamics in his voice that I was alluding to. And there's, I don't know, there's so much more in this album. Like, he's still kind of low energy and monotone, but it somehow has changed each part.
Yeah.
And obviously the chorus is a lot more repetitive than what we've heard so far, as choruses tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that you were mentioning songs that can sound like they were made in a lab, because we've kind of done some more pop songs in the past few that we were like trying to figure out like if they were like focus group tested and all kind of stuff. And I think what I love about Kendrick, this album, and Kendrick, is like he seems to just make what he's feeling and like whatever he wants to make. And I think he's getting a little bit of flack for this album because of that, but I think, you know, the real ones can appreciate it.
Yeah, I think so too. Cause he's one of the rappers that's had two names over his career. And I was watching a video of some guy explain he used to have a stage name and he was doing okay. But then he was like, you know what, I gotta drop the stage name. I have to use my real name because my music, it's gonna be a whole separate dimension of good if I can just make it myself and have the courage to stand behind it myself.
Cool.
And like every Kendrick song you've heard, every like hit or every like, you know, performance Super Bowl or the Black Panther soundtrack, that was all Kendrick Lamar. Like the old stuff no one even knows really or talks about.
Oh yeah, I don't think I knew that. That's awesome. And we talk about that a lot too, of just like, you know, the best way to make something is to just make what you want to make and what you like and what you want to be making and what you enjoy making.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But you're right, this course is repetitive and it's also short. And I think both of those things make it feel kind of like a real chorus. Like Kendrick is quite verbose as a writer and as a rapper.
Yeah.
A lot of rappers have tons of lyrics. That's just kind of the nature of the genre. But then some of them can get away with like not having different lyrics. They can like use them cleverly or repeat parts.
Yeah.
But for a chorus, he really just says the same thing 4 times. He just changes it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'll say this whole song is not a lot of words for him. For a Kendrick Lamar song, this is a short one.
Very true.
Interesting. Well, I don't know. I kind of feel like we've got a good like sample of the song, but there's still a ton more. Should we do the second verse?
Yeah, let's do it. Which I'm realizing looks like kind of a half verse compared to the first one.
Yeah. Let's
do it.
Goodness.
Yeah. Wow. This one feels a little bit more genuine than sarcastic. Like, I don't feel the sarcasm that I picked up on in the first verse.
Yeah, me either. But it's interesting. I don't know that these verses are about the same person. I don't know that it matters for what it's worth, but they're both like in the second person. Like one character, the narrator, the other character, like hearing the words. So it's weird for the one to be like almost mocking in the first verse, and this one that just like describing some things. I don't know.
Yeah. And then promise that you keep the music in rotation. That line always stands out to me, but you think this whole verse is like him talking to the other person?
Dang, I had. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking too. Just checking. But although it's not as like snarky as the first verse, it's still, the things that he's listing don't really seem like strong examples of love.
No, not at all. It's weird, yeah. I don't know if this verse is like to a peer or an influence or something. Because it seems to be talking about like sharing an audience and being honored to have the same audience or fans, or yeah, I don't know. But you're right. It's like, that's what I call love ends And maybe verse 1's a double verse because that's what I call love's in there twice. But you're right. The things that are said are not what I don't think anybody else or what the majority of people would say are badges of love or like factors of love.
Yeah. Which, kind of explains him saying that that's what he calls it. I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of like how genuine these are like symbols of love for him.
Mm. Oh yeah. Man, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe let's just try to hear more, see if we can figure it out.
Yeah.
I love one thing I've learned, love can change with the seasons.
Yeah, I liked that in the first pre-chorus, and I think it kind of supports your theory that it's sarcastic or that it's like the whole thing is not to be taken seriously.
Yeah, like it's not real love or something because it kind of comes and goes or waxes and wanes with the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say the definition of love does not include fickle or conditional, really.
Right.
And I guess that's why maybe people sometimes specify conditional love if they are being honest or, I don't know, or calling out a love that's like unsatisfying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that it shouldn't be waxing and waning.
Yeah. And his ideas of love are probably different than ours, or like harder to find maybe because he has like so much money and success, and probably has a lot of people like pretending.
Yeah, I would imagine. And also, he seems like in a genre dominated by a bunch of really savvy people that have found a way to carve out an audience and make a living, make a good living, a great living. But it's a lot of like bragging about this or exaggerating that. Kendrick Lamar seems like a real artist.
Yeah.
In a genre of people that have not necessarily no talent, but just a different talent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just wonder if sometimes he like is just on a different plane, like senses things differently, and then that can kind of come across the way he describes things.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to that he just communicates differently because he perceives things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. Which, could explain why like these don't sound like actual examples of love. It's either that and like this is how he perceives it, or he's like purposely mentioning things that aren't usually perceived as love.
Yeah. Which I kind of like when songs do that, especially love songs, when they like throw you for a loop, or they just kind of make it seem like special and intimate to one person or two people, And it's kind of cool to seem like, nice, I'm that way too, Like I think the audience likes to do that, to like, oh yeah. And it's like, no, you give yourself way too much credit. You literally would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's why this person writes songs for a living and you don't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You stand on the front row and hold up a light beer. You're not in the band.
Yeah.
You're not the artist.
Not like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe so. I honestly think it's more your first theory, but I do like the idea of like he experiences life so richly and to such a full extent that he's like, I wonder if I could work a song out that's like different things people wouldn't say are love, but I say they are.
Yeah, and like somehow kind of mean that they are for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then, we were talking about the verse is half of what's before, now the chorus is twice as long as before.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hear double chorus.
Still don't totally get it, but I'm fine with that. I'm okay being confused and bewildered, you know, as long as I'm not ultimately disappointed. It's something I learned in a film class in college. Like, obviously I didn't go to film school, obviously, but I did take every film class that was available, and my professor worked in Hollywood for a little while, and he said a great rule to remember is you can confuse your audience as long as you don't disappoint them. Like, a movie can be weird and a story can be left open to interpretation as long as the audience doesn't feel like you wasted their time.
Wow.
And
interesting, because I feel like I often see a movie and at least the ending feels like kind of cut short or like kind of disappointing.
oh wow.
And then I guess I still find satisfaction in it eventually, but initially I'm like, oh man, that's it. And I kind of like that feeling in a movie.
Whoa. Dang. Because you feel like it doesn't really end, like it lives on. Like you can imagine the character just still out there somewhere.
I think so. Or if it's left kind of open, and you kind of have to decide how it ends, I can be a little bit disappointed with that initially, and then be like, nope, I've decided which way I want it to be.
Yeah.
And I like that you kind of get to pick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can relate to that. The reason I brought that up is because the chorus is like the same idea, and if this song is about two characters, which I'm not sure, 100% sure that it is, it's like the chorus is for them. Like the verses are something that they share. It's almost like a conversation where one character is reminding the other character of things that they know, that they're aware of, that maybe they experienced together, that one character told the other character about, and the choruses are a realization or an epiphany that one character's had, explaining to the other character. Like, I can't please everybody. No, I can't please everybody. Wait, you can't please everybody. Like a totally different pronoun there. I just don't know.
Yeah, and help me out here. When people say like the royal, we. Yeah, I thought it might be we. Do they say that about like I or you at all?
I don't think so. I don't think it applies. Because I think the royal we is when royalty talks about the country, meaning like not we, the monarchs or the royal family, but like we as in all of us.
Okay.
But I think it's like sarcastic and disrespectful a little bit, like a teeny tiny bit, to be like, but they really don't mean them because they're not gonna lift a finger because their royalty will do it.
Yeah.
Like we are not doing anything because I am delegating to the rest of we. You know?
Yeah. Like they get to say it because they're royal, and then they get to like not do anything. They're like speaking as like, hey country, please, let's all do this.
Yeah.
And we'll be up here in our castle. Gotcha. I don't know why it made me think of that.
But probably because you is confusing. Like you can be a specific person or a general person.
Yeah, or like to try to be addressing everyone.
Yeah.
Try to be kind of universal. Yeah, I think you're right.
Like I mentioned second person earlier, but a great example of a second person, like we probably all know first person or third person, but second person is like instructions. They actually, I've noticed a trend where they don't, like instruction manuals won't tell a person, it'll just be steps. It'll be like just verbs, no nouns or pronouns. But you could write an instruction manual from the second person of step one is you assemble this and you take this out, you know? So it could be one person that you know and you're connecting with, or it could be whoever perceives this, whoever hears it is the you.
Yeah, and if it to me it feels kind of universal when he says you. Like he's like, I've had this realization, but it doesn't just apply to me. Even if some of this stuff does kind of not apply to y'all, this does apply to y'all.
Yeah.
Which I think you said a little bit more concisely a little while ago, but yeah, he's like, no, there's no pleasing everyone for anyone.
Yeah, seriously.
But I say we we move on to the bridge.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this bridge.
Cool. Yeah, me too.
I wonder about that part. You know how he has proclaimed himself to be the greatest, to be the best rapper, and the most gifted, and I don't know, like a prodigy. And I'm not saying he's not. It's interesting. There are some people with enough of a gift and confidence that can pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for the most part, I don't know, man. Even like really vain, like cultures or sections of culture, even that is like looked down on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whoa. You know, like in certain cultures, that's a big no immediately.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're right. It's like whoa. But even in like I would say Western culture, which is very vain and very self-obsessed and self-absorbed, we're all kind of like easy. You're not really the one that gets to say that.
Yeah, I mean, especially some of the like imagery that he's chosen for this album could make a lot of people upset, and be like called a heretic.
Yeah. So I kind of think, but maybe I'm wrong, do you reckon he's doing that here in this pre-chorus? Like saying, because there's an old, phrase, he didn't come up with this, but heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting to be like, all right, now, pump the brakes. Like, the crown is open for debate. Like, I don't know, like some people just lean into that, embrace that. LeBron James comes to mind.
They embrace like being the greatest,
yeah.
It being like heavy on them, or both.
Maybe both, but I think more so what I was thinking of was the first one.
Yeah.
Like LeBron calls himself King James on social media, and it's like we haven't all decided yet. There's some people that will defend Jordan as the greatest forever. No matter what we learn about him, and no matter what LeBron accomplishes, they'll always find an excuse. And if Kendrick Lamar is saying like that he wears the crown, it's like whoa.
Yeah, he chose the crown.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, he's kind of self-declared as the greatest.
Mm-hmm. And he very well may be. I don't honestly know how exactly to qualify and quantify something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't you, by a certain logic, say Eminem is the greatest rapper of all time? Which is a weird thing to say, and I'm not saying that, but I just know that people have said he's most successful.
Yeah.
Or Drake even. Drake has like some kind of record for the most like albums to come out at number one. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar has a Pulitzer. So
yeah, something like much more literary than other rappers can claim.
I think he was either the only one or the first one to win one of those. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the first time I heard the song, I honestly felt like the pre-chorus was one of those things, and maybe this is projecting a little bit or just assuming, but kind of like something needed to be there. So an idea or ideas from a unfinished song or another song that got put in there. I don't know that for sure. I'm not based on anything, but I just have seen that done, by songwriters that I like, and I just know that when trying to write a song, sometimes you like just feel like this part just needs something.
Right.
Do I have anything? And you're just like looking, I can probably find something.
That's so interesting because I was thinking it of as like almost the opposite.
Whoa.
I think mainly because crown is in the bridge, the word crown, and not anywhere else in the song, and the title is crown.
Yeah.
And it's yet another like different approach, like a different sound that he's doing vocally. And I think like the piano is kind of like rolling a little bit more or something, like there's more notes. So I was kind of thinking he really wanted to say that, and then like might have had a hard time figuring out what to bookend it with and like what else to include with it.
That's definitely possible. I would say he sounds the best, and the song sounds the best on this part.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most listenable,
Yeah,
or
pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant or palatable. Which again, I think I've said this before, but this is something we haven't like beaten to death, in my opinion. That there's no real such thing as a bad tone or bad sound.
Mm.
I believe just inappropriate. Like there's just certain tones that don't belong in music for church. There's certain tones that don't belong, I would say, at a funeral as a general rule. And then I say that, somebody be like, no, because my stepdad was really, really cool. Whatever, you know, it's like, whatever. Generally speaking, at a high school graduation, or, you know, at a funeral, or in a movie, or just like a playing music on a playlist at like a corporate party. It's supposed to be safe and tame, and like no one here really wants to get into a long thing of, I don't like this kind of music, I only like this kind of music. We'll just play something easy listening for everybody. It's kind of like background music. So I would say it's inappropriate to use certain tones some places, but never wrong, quote unquote, or bad, quote unquote. Yeah. And I like that we get a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes or so, maybe 2 minutes and a half of stuff that kind of like puts us on edge. Stuff that's kind of like, why does it sound like that? And then to then get a little bit of like a pleasant sound.
Which to me kind of feels like opposite of what a bridge usually is. Mm-hmm. Like usually, like the chorus sounds really easy and catchy.
And the bridge gets your attention.
Yeah. Like disrupts that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, this feels like pretty unusual compared to most of the songs we've done.
Yeah,
definitely. And we've talked about doing Kendrick songs multiple times and just haven't gotten around to it. So it's kind of funny we ended up doing this one.
Yeah.
But this chorus is a bit different.
Yeah, it is.
Changes it up, so let's check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I like that part. I like the ad-libs and the echoes.
Yeah. It's almost like something changed during the bridge. Mm-hmm. Which is crazy that he can like convey that in these few minutes in a song. It's almost like a revelation.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, musically it is. Like if you're painting with these certain paintbrushes, like depicting like me 2/3 of the hero's journey, and then the bridge is like the final, like being refined in the fire and then coming back from the underworld, or the like final challenge, or whatever it is, in those like motifs and retold stories. And then the end, or the two end sections, are like, dang, it sounds different. I feel different about this song.
Yeah, something's changed.
Yeah, it's neat though. Kind of talking about what we've been on for a little bit, is like music just messes with your mind, certainly, and your body if you let it. Mm-hmm. If you're passive when it comes to listening to music, you can find yourself in like a different state. You know, unless you just fight it, or unless you are like, I don't know, maybe you can be too passive, now that I say that. Or again, if you fight it, if you're like, no, I'm just, this music don't affect me, you know?
Yeah. I'm not trying to be sad right now, or I'm too caffeinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it introduces some new and interesting lines here towards the end of the song.
Yes.
Love Gonna Get You Killed really stands out.
Mm-hmm. And the part about a new car.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think he's definitely at that level. And he's always been a different like style of rapper, or different like image. But he's definitely at that like level of not trying to look rich anymore, but so rich that he is like dialed it back to being plain, you know?
Yeah.
Like J. Cole's a good example of that. Like he'll make fun of himself. He'll post like side by sides of like, this is what I wore, like what I thought I should wear after I went platinum the first time. And then he's like, this is me now. And he's wearing just like minimalist, plain stuff. Yeah. It's probably all still very expensive, but not as expensive and not flashy at all.
Yeah. I think Donald Glover has done a similar thing.
Yeah.
And that rapper that looks a lot like him.
Yeah, that rapper. Yeah. That's true. They have a pretty similar style. Short shorts, J. Crew Nike shoes, sweaters with holes in them. Yeah, that's a real thing that people, like a level people get to.
Mm-hmm.
I admire it, but then again, I think I find myself, I would be more like, I don't know who, like Post Malone, or the Kardashians a little bit. I know that sounds crazy, but just at a level of like, what do you want me to do? Hide it? You want me to lie to you? I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, this is all, I built this.
Yeah.
I did all this.
Yeah. Dang. So maybe it's even just hard for us to imagine getting past that to the simple.
Yeah.
Don't even care about that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to try to quote it, but I think he has another song that's just like mentioning all the stuff he tried to like get and like buy and like achieve and like how that just didn't satisfy him.
Oh man. Cool. Man, I really like that idea. I like thinking on that or like meditating on that, especially when it comes to really successful people, because they always seem to say that or something similar to that, and yet the very next crop or the very next class or generation of people that reaches that level is like, I gotta try it for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm familiar with you saying that. I want to just let me experiment. I'll let you know if you were right.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, you can't learn from their mistakes.
Nope.
Nope.
Well, we want to hear the outro, the refrain.
Yeah.
Out. Really does make you feel different by the end of the song.
It does. Yeah. I think there's something about people as music listeners that if you just repeat something long enough, it's hard for it to not echo in our heads. Like, it's hard for us to not hear it or not like think on it. And there's like a high pitched like choir kind of singing part, or maybe like just a small number of people singing together, and then it leaves us with that just like 2-finger part, that little easy, low kind of melancholy piano part.
Yeah. And before that, just Can't Please. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like the parts get kind of separated. Like somewhat, like maybe different people are screaming everybody. Excuse me. And but it ends on Can't Please, and then just like that, like kind of slowing down piano part that we've talked so much about, kind of carries throughout.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And he does a little bit more of like kind of the really shrill part, especially at the beginning of the refrain, like the first pre-chorus. Like I hear just like a couple of screeches from him, which give it emotion, I think, despite the monotony of his vocals.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks up the monotony.
Yeah, it does. And that's a good way to do it, is to like give yourself this base, or this like ground level, and be like, nice, I can kind of go wherever I want, or like add stuff to it, or just throw extra textures at the canvas, for lack of a good metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Well, who do you think should go first? I think you went first last time. Does that sound right?
Yeah, if you're ready, I say go for it.
Cool. I can definitely go. I think, without trying to take other Kendrick songs into consideration, because like if you contrast his whole body of work, this one stands out pretty early. I mean, it's like, that one does not belong in this lineup. But I would say taking this song in a vacuum, or just as a standalone piece, it is almost nothing but a sad, almost automatically sad piano part. You hear it and you're like, oh man, what's wrong? Also, unless they're subtle and disguised on purpose, no percussion.
Ooh, yeah.
Just a rap song without a beat as we kind of typically think about beats. Other beats kind of become like a rap term of art for accompaniment, backing track, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no real beat, and I think the way his energy is low and he's subdued, and he's intentional with each of these lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could, if you had to pick out all these lyrics, like he could say a lot, someone could pause and be like, what he's saying. It wouldn't be like a typical rap song where you'd be like, well, Kendrick's kind of fast. He said something, you know, you would know the lyrics. I think that's on purpose, and I think the fact that the lyrics mention love a handful of times, whether that's sarcastic or whether that's trying to impress upon us that he doesn't view love the way the rest of us do. I still think tonally, all things considered, it's a ballad. I just, from the tempo to the musical style to his vocal style, I think I gotta say love song.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you started with like trying to not consider his other songs, because I was doing that, and like it's just hard for me not to, or impossible even. And then you kind of like compared it to, you know, other rap songs, and I think even if you tried to remove all of that, it is like slow, and that piano part is slow, and it slows down at the end, and it's very minimalist. The whole song really is to just have vocalists and a pianist is really unheard of on a rap album. Not totally, probably, but certainly rare. And it does feel emotional and like personal in a way that like the listener isn't quite in on, but it's still coming across as like vulnerable and genuine. And somehow I hadn't thought about the lack of percussion very much, and that's a great point. And I could not call this a fight song, even compared to like some of the slowest ballads that we've done that are out there. It'd be hard pressed to call this a fight song. And sometimes when I'm picking, I'm like, this one's too easy. But I try to kind of get away from that too, because I also just like talking about songs that I like and that are interesting. So hopefully it was that. But I would certainly call Crown a love song.
Yeah, nice. Well said, yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know about one being too easy. I mean, I think we're always seeking to prove what we set out to prove, that they can only be one or the other. So good examples of one category, like, yeah, this one, if it's a hard song, it's most like this one or most like that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you, and I agree that it'd be wild to call this a fight song.
Yeah, and then trying to be separate from that, any other Kendrick song you pick, you know, close your eyes and pick a Kendrick song. Yeah. Is not a love song.
Yeah.
And there may be some that are more loving, that might kind of toe the line a little bit more. But I think just in contrast, even, like, he's usually much more energetic and kind of angry. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, you know, we talk about trying to get people to listen to music in headphones as much as possible. Definitely do that. And definitely go listen to the whole album. Not just Kendrick's album, but like just listen to albums, please, because it's good stuff. And this is an incredible album and an awesome piece of art.
Yeah. Yeah, good little PSA, for real. They put the songs in that order on purpose.
Yeah, certainly.
So yeah, you do that.
And we haven't talked about that as much lately. It's just an album that I really appreciated.
Yeah. Nice. Well, we hope you all liked that one. Let us know if you disagree or Let us know if you didn't like this one. Cam mentioned that people are criticizing this album, or
Yeah.
that it's not as well received so far. I mean, that seems to be a growing trend in like every genre. If it has any, like time as an art form, people are like, well, this I actually don't like. It's like, all right, but let us know if we are way off on this one. Definitely leave a comment.
Yeah, if you love Kendrick, think he's fallen off or whatever, we'd love to hear about that and argue with you or just talk to you at all. And thank y'all for listening and for watching. And like and share and all that stuff if you want.
If you feel like it, And Cam, thank you. It's a good pick.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
And we'll talk to y'all next week.